First of the year will be the first time some of Idaho's new rules will take effect. These are statutes signed into law last legislative session. Normally, the start date is set for the 1st of July, which is the start of the new fiscal year. Think appropriations bills, for example. But not all laws follow suit. Sometimes the legislature specifically states a different date for the law to go into effect, and sometimes it could be immediately. But there are those that are postponed to like the 1st of the year. Andrew Bartline explains a few of the latter.
Registering to vote is due a new regulation in the new year, impacting
I think
mostly students.
this makes it really hard for organizations like Babe Vote to help people complete voter registration. Most people receive a student ID when they're enrolled in high school or college. Other forms of ID, like a driver's license, they have a couple more extra steps that can become a burden to some young people.
But the state legislature made it clear student IDs will no longer be a valid document to register or vote.
There's no standard for student ID. A student ID that's made by my kid's high school is going to be different than the student ID made by U of I.
Standard accepted documents include an Idaho driver's license, a U.S. passport, tribal ID card, or a concealed carry permit. The state now offers a free ID card for anyone impacted by the change.
The state bent over backwards to give people the opportunity to vote in the state.
The state is now also giving people the opportunity to start fresh.
All of the collateral consequences that face you in America when you have something on your record. You can't get a job, you can't get a license to do this, that, or the other. You can no longer be a foster parent.
There's thousands of restrictions for a record, and Idaho's lawmakers say some people don't deserve it.
Minor in possession of alcohol, so if you're busted with a beer at a party when you're 19, offenses like that. So these are very low-risk offenses.
A qualifying record must be nonviolent and non-sexual. The one-time opportunity removes an offense from public view. It must be 5 years after completing a sentence with no following problems.
But we'll still be in law enforcement databases. Police will still be able to see it, and if you reoffend, that first offense will come back to haunt you.
Republicans push changes to the food stamp program across the finish line. It's commonly called SNAP. Supporters say House Bill 161 closes loopholes to the program. It now requires employment training for all able-bodied food stamp enrollees. Supporters add this will reintroduce more than 21,000 people to the state's workforce.
People who have showed up today.
The hottest topic from last legislative session strikes cold reality for parents affirming their transgender children.
I will say
House Bill 71.
Children in Idaho are suffering from these procedures, so-called therapies.
The law bans puberty blockers, transition hormones, and gender transition surgeries. This applies only to minors.
Is that a reality? Did you experience anything like that?
I did not experience anything encouraging me to be trans. It just really sucks how people have been portraying it as they've been groomed into this. Yeah, I would be very depressed at best.
Would literally turn my wife and I into felons.
The final bill signed into law finds any doctor providing gender transition care guilty of a felony with up to 10 years in prison.
We need to recognize that the kids are not equipped to make these sorts of decisions at such young ages, especially when the harms are so severe. From our perspective, these drugs are just as harmful, and kids need to be just as protected from them as they are from sex reassignment surgeries.
There is a possibility challenges to these laws could put them on temporary pause through an injunction. An appeal to the student ID law, for example, is currently in the Idaho State Supreme Court. We reported that yesterday. And then the minor transition ban, Brian, that is also working its way through federal court as well. The last update I saw was a couple months ago, but I believe they're asking for an injunction as well. So as these things move through court, there could be pauses, but right now it seems that these are in place to be law start of next year.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that transgender reaffirming medication and surgery stuff, that was postponed until the 1st of the year to give anybody in Idaho that's taking those the time to get off of those?
That was the idea, because the hormone aspect of it, if you are a transgender person or minor in this case who would be affected by this, if you are on those hormones, I understand cutting cold turkey instantly is a problem, and that might be an inappropriate use of the phrase, but just cutting it instantly is not good. And so giving it time to wean off them if it's now illegal was the idea to help them with that.
All right, we'll keep an eye and see if anything else changes between now and then. All right, thanks, Andrew.